My name is Patrick Greybill. I wanted to tell you that I think I'm pretty lucky. Despite being old and bald, I'm still learning. I want to tell you the story about when I was growing up. It was a long time ago when I was born. I have 3 deaf sisters and 1 deaf brother. 2 sisters are hearing. The oldest 2 are deaf, the 3rd is hearing, and then 10 years later I was born. And then my next sister was deaf also. My parents were hearing. They didn't know what they were supposed to do with deaf children. My oldest 2 sisters went to a school for the deaf, and they taught my parents different signs. My father never learned to sign. It was a long time ago when he would do different work and just make money to support his family. At that time, the wife would take care of the children, and so my mother learned how to sign. When my 2 sisters went to in their institute, it had been a while, and then I was born. So they knew what to do with me. They had had experience. My sisters were skilled in ASL, and they taught me how to sign. So that's what I did growing up. So when I was about 5, and I finally got to go to school, it was very different than at home. At home, we would sign. My sisters and my brothers would sign, but my father would talk. Then I'd ask about what they were talking about, and my sisters would tell me. When I finally got to the school, they didn't sign. They taught oralism and lip reading, because in the hearing world, they thought we needed to learn how to speak so that we could match well with everybody else. My favorite place was the dorms, because everybody was deaf. All my friends. Did you know that in all of the deaf people, about 10% have deaf family and parents like me, but 90% don't, and they have hearing parents. So we all learned sign language from each other. We all learned, and if it was right or wrong, I don't know. All the teachers were very patient, but there was one teacher, and this is her sign name, who was very good. She was very skilled in signing, and every day she would stand on the stage and she would tell us stories. And I sat there and watched her beautiful signing, and I wanted to be like her in the future when I grew up. I wanted to sign just like her. The next wonderful person was my sister. I was little, maybe about 5 when I started at the institute, but I remember that sitting and watching her in the school plays. Like Huckleberry Finn. There were many girls in the theater group, but that play had a lot of male characters. So my sister had to become a man. And she played one character, Uncle Jim. And not only was he a man, but he was also black. So she had to paint her face. And when I saw her sitting with Huckleberry Finn on the stage, I thought that it was a wonderful story, and I enjoyed it. And I knew that I wanted to be like her when I grew up, an actor. But remember my teacher with the beautiful signing? I wanted to be the same as her also. So now I had two dreams. And all my friends who signed, I wanted to be like them also. A long time ago, my mother was a teacher also. And even though once she got married, she never just sat there and waited. She would always help teach us different games. We would play hide and go seek. And I loved learning games like tag. But when I was about 10, I was really bored. So I asked my mom, "What's a new game?" And my mother was busy. She was making, and I was complaining a lot. So I followed her into the house, into the living room, and she got a book. And the book was called Beautiful Joe. So I opened it up, and the first sentence said, "My name is Beautiful Joe, and I am a C-U-R cur? What does that mean?" And so I asked my mom, and so she handed me a dictionary. And she taught me how to use the dictionary. A, B, C. And to go through all of those until I found the word. And so then I thought, my name is Beautiful Joe. And I am a cur, but it means dog. And so I kept going through and finding new words through the dictionary. And it was like a puzzle. It was so much fun. And so then I kept reading, and I became a bookworm. I love reading books. She taught me how to find the words, and she never told me that I was wrong and made big X's on my papers. But she was different, and so now I wanted to be like my teacher, my sister, and my mom. So when I grew up and went to high school, I met another wonderful person that I wanted to be like. He was a hearing teacher, and he didn't believe in looking down at deaf people. He taught Shakespeare. And he said, "I know you can," even though we all thought it was too hard. These words in the Shakespeare play, like Romeo and Juliet, are harder than other words that I have seen. So I looked in the dictionary. Like one word, fortnight. I thought it meant tonight, but it means in 2 weeks. So I kept learning and learning. But now what happened to him, I don't know. He probably became a wonderful teacher somewhere else. So when I graduated from the deaf school and I went to Gallaudet University, or college, in my first year, I had 9 teachers, 1 hearing and 8 deaf. I'd never had that before. I had maybe 1 deaf teacher growing up. But at Gallaudet, 8 deaf. The hearing teacher was really good at sign language. And the other 8, and he taught English. The other 8 were math and other classes. Gallaudet was like heaven for me. I was so excited to learn. I really enjoyed my first year. But in my gut, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I thought maybe I could act as a hobby, because there really isn't that big of a need for deaf actors, and that I would work at the Institute and become a teacher and act as a hobby. So even though I studied, my favorite was acting, but I knew that I must go to school to get a good job in the future. I felt that I could go to school and work with no problem. So I thought about my major and I picked English, so that after I graduated, I could become a teacher. But I was told that I couldn't. But why? Because you can't talk. In all the schools, it's important to teach to be oral, and you don't talk. But I was told that it would be better if I just picked a different major, and I was so sad. There were many of us that were told no, that we couldn't become teachers because we were deaf and we couldn't talk. And so that really lit a fire under me. So I was told I could go 1 semester, and if I failed, then I would have to change my major. So my first semester, I studied. And I made the dean's list. So we continued on. In my second semester, I studied, and that was when I had to start practicing as a teacher. So I went to the Deaf Institute in West Virginia. So for 1 week, I practiced teaching, and I really enjoyed it. There were 4 weeks in the semester. So I was getting a lot of help with my teaching. And then someone from the college came to watch me teach. And I was told that I might be able to teach at the school in Washington, D.C. And there was a community theater there where I could also act. So I would have my teaching job in Washington, D.C., and at night I could act. And I thought that was perfect. I was still in heaven. And so my first year teaching was going to start, and I go into my classroom. And I notice that all the students are deaf, but they're a little bit slow mentally. And I dreamed of teaching and teaching English. but all of the students were a little bit slow. So I had to be very patient. Now, many of the teachers in the school were hearing, but I was deaf. And I wasn't very happy, but I was patient. And so my second year teaching, it was the same class with the same slower students. And I'd asked the principal at the school for my third year, do you think I could get a different class? And the principal said yes. So my third year started, and I walked into my room and it was the same class. But for 1 hour a week, I got to teach in another classroom. And they thought it would be fine, but it wasn't. So I quit. But now, what do I do? Well, you see, my family, I had grown up Catholic, so I thought maybe I could become a priest. But I grew up in a deaf institution, and signing. All of the priests were hearing. And it was very awkward for me to be around all of the people. And a lot of them said, oh, I want to learn sign language. So I taught them. There was one class that had no interpreter, no note taker. And so that day I said that I was going to stay in my dorm room. And I was very patient for 2 years. And that's when the National Theater for the Deaf was set up in Washington, D.C. So I wondered if I was still going to stay a priest, because I had wanted to be an actor as a hobby. So I decided to join one tour and see if I liked it. So the first week we spent training. Then we started our tour, and I loved that job. It was a group of around maybe 12 actors, and 10 were deaf. 2 were hearing to speak for the 10. It was like a little family. We were touring together. So I was with the National Theater for the Deaf for about 10 years. And I feel that 10 years was long enough. A lot of the times they were signed in English so that it'd be easier for the interpreter to speak along with the signing. We couldn't use ASL on stage. And so I knew that I could sign English. So I was asked maybe later, do you think that you could practice signing? And I thought signing in the dinner room? So I practiced by myself, and I practiced for about 7 hours a week. The director couldn't sign. He had an interpreter. But I noticed that the director had fallen asleep while I was practicing, and the interpreter looked at me and he was very interested in what we were doing. And then finally, after I stopped, I heard the director finally woke up. So I continued, and for the first time, I felt that acting and signing came from the gut. And if you aren't signing ASL, there's less emotion. Signing properly, you can have all of the emotion that you need. And even though we were signing, when you're signing an ASL, even if you can't understand it, it still makes sense. And many people in the group, they quit, new people new people joined, and so it didn't feel like the same family anymore. So I'd done acting, I'd done teaching, and I had been a priest. So I moved to Rochester, New York. Now the acting and I'd found a place where I could do all three of the things I loved. And everything would be a job. The church work, the acting, and the teaching. And I was satisfied. So now I'm in my 50s, and I don't think that I've learned everything I need to about the things that I love. I think you can always keep learning. Even now, I'm still learning. I'm deaf. I can still learn. My family. I have hearing parents, yes. It's not perfect, but it doesn't matter. I still love my family, and my 3 deaf sisters, and my 1 deaf brother, the 5 of us. Learning from them. There are many people that I want to learn from and to copy. And so I'm lucky. And so growing up, I learned I can get a job as an actor, I can get a job as a teacher, and even in the church. And so I think about what I want to do in the future, and I'm curious and excited looking forward. So I want to tell you to keep learning. It's a lot of fun to keep learning and to keep going.